Good evening and welcome to Earth to the Other Side. My name is John Glasspool. I'm your host, and tonight I am speaking with Viki Georgiadis, and she had an NDE back in 2017. Viki, nice to see you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, John. Nice to see you too.
Let's get into it. What happened back in 2017 or wherever you want to start? Because I know that you had an OBE experience as well. I don't know if you want to start with that.
Sure. Okay, so when I was 7 years old, I had an experience where I left my body and I was visiting a restaurant with my parents, getting some ice cream, and I ran outside to play in the little play area that they had. And I was in this little tower that they had outside, and I must have gotten brain freeze or something. I don't know, but I passed out and I remember hovering up above my body and looking down. I could see myself and laying there and kind of was like, what's going on? What is this? And I thought, well, this must be something that happens and I'm just not aware of it. Like it's never happened to me before. And I decided to go float where my parents were inside the restaurant. And I said, oh, I better go tell my parents. So I floated and I went up above the restaurant and I could look down into the restaurant and I could see exactly where they were sitting. I could hear their conversation. And I heard my mom at that exact moment ask my brother where I was. And my brother told her she's outside playing. And my mom said, okay. And I said to myself, I better go back to my body because they're going to come looking for me. So I decided to float back over to my body, or however that happened. I just kind of floated back over. And as I was hovering up over my body again, I was kind of like, you can have, you see everything, there's nothing that you can't see. But specifically, I saw these two ladies that were kind of up where I was, and they were, I think, angels. They were not dressed, they didn't have wings, but they had like white flowy gowns. And one was an older one was a younger one. They were talking amongst themselves, and I saw them and they were looking at me, but they didn't say anything to me. And the next thing I know, I am back in my body and I wake up to freezing ice cream melting on my arm, and a young boy literally standing in front of me with his just mouth wide open in shock. I don't know what he witnessed or saw, but he was surprised. And I kind of just got up, took what was left of my ice cream and went inside and told my mom specifically what had happened. And I explained to her exactly what I heard, the conversation, and she did validate that conversation. So, but she didn't have an explanation for me. So I never really understood what happened until obviously I got much older.
Wow, that's amazing. Did you ever speak to your friends about it at the time?
Not, I was 7 years old. Not really. I mean, I didn't really have any way to understand it or process it or, but I just always had it in me that there's something else happening. Because when you have that type of experience, it's not like you're hallucinating or you're having a dream. It's an actual validated experience. Yeah.
Yeah. It was in grade one. I had a similar experience to you. It was a head injury, nothing super, super serious, but it was a similar experience to you, and even around the same age.
Yeah.
But then I think I repressed it because it was only until very recently in a meditation that I had memory of the out of body part of that experience. Because initially it was just sort of like I do remember my friend taking my hat off, and we were running around the yard, and I slipped on some ice. I hit my head, and I remember being uh, feeling really nauseous and
In
uh,
between. I thought
yeah,
about it. I said, that's probably why they call it losing consciousness. But how much of that do they really understand? Like, you
yeah,
do lose consciousness, but do they understand that your consciousness actually leaves your body? And
yeah. Well, that's the thing. So for me, like, that was it after that. And I've had this memory my entire life. And
yeah.
and it was not that big of a deal. But when I had this meditation, I had an entire new thing open up, like a whole channel of memories from that incident, like so detailed. Like I have the memory in my head, but I don't remember what the school looked like
Right.
outside and inside. I don't remember that, you know? And I don't even know how much of that I saw. I went from the school bus to the yard. I was only there for grade one. Because at first I wasn't sure like where I was, but I felt okay. Everything was fine. Like I was me, I was conscious, but I
Mhm.
was suspended in the air. And again, that didn't seem so abnormal either. You know, and I'm
Yeah.
looking down and I did, and this voice tells me to, I want you to look and, tell me what you see, kind of thing. And I'm looking around and I'm not sure. I'm thinking one of these people must be me, you know? And there were
Explanation
some other details too, which I would love to
people.
validate, but I don't even know if these people are still alive. But
Yeah.
I saw the TA. He was a gentle giant, and he carried me into the school, which I never to this day knew. That's an
Yeah.
interesting part of the stories. I never knew about that. I just remember being outside and what happened, and then being inside, sitting at a desk with my head down, feeling like I was going to throw up, you know? It's so interesting that my reaction to you was like, oh, why wouldn't she want to scream all that to her friends? You know, you're seven. Hey, I was out of my body, I could see everything or whatever. And here I am doing the exact same thing. I completely erased the memories, even
Yeah.
one step further, you know?
I think had my mother showed any sign that it was normal or something, I probably would have, but it's one of those things where you don't want to really, even at 7 years old, I was like, um, what do you do with that? I don't know. It wasn't like
I
you had the
know.
internet, you can Google stuff and watch videos and stuff. It's just this thing that happened. And then you're
Didn't
like,
have
oh,
that.
okay, it happened. And, you don't always react how you think you're going to react. And you don't react how people expect you to react sometimes when things like this happen. So,
Yeah.
like, I don't judge people when they say certain things that happen to them because everybody reacts differently. And I've never been a panicker. I don't panic. I don't like over emote things. And I kind of like try to find a logical explanation or something, or I try to find some sort of reason for it. But at 7 years old, I just didn't have the access to information that I do have now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That's awesome. I love that story. And it reminded me, like I said, of my own, which is really cool. Every day you discover something new with some of these experiences, like
Yeah.
it's crazy. I love it. Let's hear about what happened in 17.
Okay. So I think that was a kind of a culmination of a series of events leading up to that point in my life. And then, I have a child that has autism. I have twins. Um, and I was just trying to do it all. And I was trying to control everything. And I was very not taking care of myself. Um, Lots of stress in my life. I'll just leave it at that. It was very stressful time and period. And my friend said to me, I felt like, and a lot of women can relate to this, where I just felt like I was unhappy. I was not looking good. I wasn't taking care of myself. And I felt like a frumpy mom, and I wanted to do something for myself. My friend says to me, if there's one thing that you could change about yourself, what would it be? And I told her. She said, well, go ahead and do that. And it's a personal thing, but it's a surgery. It requires surgery. So I went and had surgery for that. And thereafter is when the fun began. And the first thing I recall was I remember after surgery, days after probably, and I might have been in the doctor's office or maybe at home. The timing was kind of off. I That whole year was just very nutty for me. I heard the words sort out your truth, intuition, and gift. So I started doing some research. I thought, okay, well, I guess I've lost it now. The first thing I thought was something's wrong with me. I've lost it. Something happened to me. I inquired with the doctor. He said nothing happened to me during surgery. Um, and just things started to change. I was still under a lot of stress, but I was trying to also recover from surgery and maintain a very hectic, stressful, I should say, lifestyle at the time. And I just couldn't do it. And I had to recover. So I had to sit in bed, drink a lot of water. I think I was flushing out my system pretty well with all the water I was drinking. And my husband had to help out more with the kids and be more involved. And I started researching about what was happening to me, but things were continuing to happen throughout the year. Time was just off. I mean, I couldn't tell time anymore. I don't know how to explain that other than a shift in like reality almost. I had to go to some follow-up appointments with the doctor. And as I was in the office there, one of those follow-up appointments, sitting in the exam room waiting for him to come in, all of a sudden I see a white ball of light kind of suspended in the air. Mind you, this is the first time I've seen anything or heard anything. And again, I'm still thinking something happened to me during surgery or something happened to me. And I just kind of like really focused in on it to see what am I looking at here. And as I was focusing in on it, it started to expand and it opened up into like a big rectangle and like almost like a window or a door. And kind of looking into it, not panicking, not freaking out, anything, just kind of looked into it. And what I see is it looked to me like a galaxy of white balls. For me, that's all I knew to call them at the time, floating around with, to me, they looked like they had an agenda. They were going somewhere, moving around. And as I'm looking at it, one of those balls starts to come at me, towards me, and it's coming closer. And as it starts to come closer to me, it takes the shape of a friend of mine, still all white, who had passed a few years prior. I think at the time when this happened, I was just very distraught in life. Even though I was having the surgery, I still was not in a good place. I was very depleted of energy, to say the least. I looked at him and I said, and I don't recall if I verbally said this or thought it, but I said, "Where are you?" And he said, he turned like this, looked behind, and then turned back at me, and he said, "I'm here. You'll like it. It's fun." And I just kind of looked. That was it. He was happy. He was smiling, and that was good, right? So then he extends his hand out to me, and I started to put my hand out. And then I thought, oh, this is what I've heard, that this is what happens to people when they're dying. And so but I put my hand out and then I paused. I didn't reach fully to his hand. As I paused, the doctor opens the door, comes into the room. He was just making his first stride into the room, saw me with my hand extended, reaches out, grabs onto my hand, and just pulls me forward. So I don't know. I'm sure he's seen all kinds of things being a doctor, and, something gave him the inclination to do that. So he asked me, "Is everything okay?" And I said, "Yep, everything's fine." Once again, kind of like, because at the time I'm thinking, I don't know what's going on, and I'm not about to say anything to this person who's going to think I'm completely nuts, not really understanding what's happening to me. Once again, still thinking something happened to me during surgery. I don't know what happened to me. So that was that. So that was kind of like what got the ball rolling for me as far as, but that small few moments that I had with that experience, the love that I felt was just, I can't even describe it. It was just the most amazing feeling of love I've ever felt in my life. It was, I felt like I was crossing over. I felt like I was going home. I felt like I was happy to be going, you know, because I was so unhappy and stressed here. It was like it was refreshing to know that I could leave this behind, you know. And so that kind of was like what the near death experience portion of my experience was. And that kind of catalyzed my life and moved it into a different direction. And I started, it really showed me how, I think because I was starting to kind of cross over, I still was very open. It had opened me up. So my psychic abilities started to come in and my chakra, you know, all the stuff I learned later on. But anyway, I had a Kundalini awakening, spiritual awakening. I was heightened. My consciousness was heightened to the level of Christ consciousness, what they call Christ consciousness. I just had all of this information, felt like it was downloaded to me. And then it was like this process of just learning how to, what is happening to me, and then it sets you off on this journey of healing. I had a dark night of the soul experience. I was purging for months and months. My body was going through transformation physically. It's just a process. That's all I can tell you.
Yeah, so interesting. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah,
So this friend that you had met in the experience through the portal,
yeah.
did you get the impression that they were expecting you to go with them at that time, or
That is the impression that I got, that there was, you know, I felt like maybe he was coming to save me from my own pain and suffering, you know. I do feel like they can see us and watch us and look out for us and guide us. And I feel like, um, you know, for whatever reason it happened, I don't know, other than I feel like I was just at that point in my life where I've heard that we have these kind of exit doors, as they say, you know, or exit points in
8 of
our
them, I
lives.
think.
Yeah, that might have been one. I don't know. But it certainly changed my life. It certainly made it more spiritual, and it added more dimensions, obviously, and it taught me about universal energies. It taught me about healing. It taught me just a lot of different things.
Yeah, I found it super interesting. What he had said to you essentially was, I'm here, right? You'll like it here. It
Yeah,
almost felt like and I heard another someone on the channel was explaining how this version of heaven that they experienced was more or less, they were trying to explain it as they weren't anywhere else, but
yeah,
still here, right? And I've heard it referred to that many times as well, like, oh, it's always just three, the veil is, the other side
then
of the veil is
yeah,
3 feet in front of you, right?
yeah.
And then I hear this from you, and I just find that really interesting. Like, if he was referring to, I mean, I know you saw, through the
I
portal, there's many
yeah,
souls in the forms of light, right?
yeah, it felt like he was saying, um, it 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 just felt like he was, you know, like when you're doing something fun and you want your friends to kind of come along, that kind of a thing, you know, like, hey, you know, it's fun, come on, you know. It felt like more like that, like
Okay.
So I don't know how else to explain it, but it did leave me with that feeling that we can die at any moment, and death is like as easy as walking from one room to another. That's how it felt. It was like very, and when you're dying, you know what's happening to you. You know, I've seen these videos now on TikTok and everything with people showing their loved ones passing and they're reaching out and what have you. Those people are very conscious of what's happening to them. And I understand that feeling of what it feels like to be crossing over and the bliss that comes with it. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's more real and alive feeling than anything here.
And the downloads that you were talking about receiving post-surgery, was this like how long were those things happening to you, like prior to the awakening, like
Years.
for
I
years?
mean, after my surgery, yeah, for years. And I'm
Mm.
still, I'm still able to channel my journey. So every month, every year, or if I have like an important meeting or something, I'll just ask questions basically, and I do it through automatic writing. I'm more clairaudient, so I hear stuff. But I've also now over the years taken classes in theta healing. And I've had my Reiki certification.
Nice.
I've and tapped into and dabbled into like other stuff, mediumship and all that typical stuff that everybody kind of gets into to kind of use those extra senses and tarot reading, all that stuff. Yeah.
Wow.
So I don't know, it just puts you on this path and you're able to use these extra abilities and help others. And I knew one of the things I channeled early on was that I was going to be helping people through my experience and what I have been learning because it put me on this. I was just learning everything I could as quickly as I could. Just I couldn't get enough information.
Were
So
these downloads coming to you through meditation or just sort of randomly?
both. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, meditation for me is um kind of like a defragmenting of your hard drive, you know? It kind of like puts all the files in order and kind of makes you clear everything up. And then I get downloads during meditation, and I also get downloads when I'm doing my channeling or when I'm doing tarot or something. Yeah. And
That's a great.
sometimes, yeah. So I love it. It's helped me on my journey. It's helped me get to a better point and place in my life, not just for me, but for my family, my kids, my children. So, and I'm thinking, I mean, my friends see it. I'm asked, people are coming to me for help. And I knew that that was going to happen. And then I knew that there was going to be a process to get to that point because it
Of
was
course.
shown
Yeah.
to me. Yeah, it was shown to me early on. I felt
Yeah.
like I was initiated onto this path, and I didn't have anybody to talk to. I had Google, which was great.
Hmm.
And then I started taking Pilates classes, and my Pilates instructor, I was trying to explain to her what was happening to me because I knew she was be more open to it. And she referred me to a medical doctor who also happened to be a shaman or is
Hmm.
still. So I went and sat with him, very nice man. And he sat with me for about an hour and a half and we talked about everything and he made me feel comfortable with what was going on with me. And so I knew it wasn't some sort of psychosis or anything. I knew it was spiritual and I felt it in my heart that it was spiritual. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a great reference right there. Synchronicity.
That's right.
Everything
So
lined up.
everything has been playing out that way for me since then. People have been coming into my life that have helped me on my journey, that have either taught me, my theta healing instructor I met that way, my Reiki instructor I met that way, just different, my daughter's horseback riding instructor I met that way, just different things. It just opens you up to a different level of living, really.
Well, I mean, they call it an awakening for a reason, right? All your senses wake up,
Yeah.
and beyond that. So, like, Yeah, it's quite a
spiritual
feeling.
awakening,
Mm.
everything. It just is. I was very sensitive at first. It was very, I was hypersensitive to everything. So I couldn't go out in public, and my husband was getting annoyed with me, God bless his soul. But I was just, every sounds, everything, light bothered me, everything. So, but it felt like I was being guided. It felt like I was being shown the way, you know.
What about ringing in your ears?
Yeah, lots of ringing in my left ear primarily.
Hmm.
My right ear once in a while. Um, I remember it was football, um, Super Bowl game. I think it was Tom Brady, the first. So anyway, I heard my husband says to me, "Hey, are you going to come watch the game?" And he was already getting there watching the game. And I said, as soon as he said that, I heard the words, "The Bucks are going to win." So it must have not been Tom Brady. The Bucks are going to win. I literally heard that in my right ear. And I said to him, "No, the Bucks are going to win, you know."
You know you've just ruined all his future bets for these events. You know that
No,
now.
he wants me to give him lottery numbers, but I can't do that.
So you've got basically the intuition part down, that's for sure. What do you
Mhm.
gather they were referring to with the whole truth? I mean, you don't have to go into anything too personal, but I mean, if you want to sort of high level it for us.
Yeah, I think the truth for me meant the truth of who we are, because I was very much in my physical, non-spiritual self. And I functioned from that place of ego and had shut down my spiritual side completely, pretty much. I still believed in God, but I didn't practice anything spiritually. And so for me, the truth was to know that we are beyond our physical form here, and that we have so much more to us than what we believe we have. And we have so many more abilities than we have. It was trying to guide me to my intuition. I think that was the truth. That was, for me, that's truth. That is, use this, make your life better, help other people, that kind of truth. But I had a lot of work to do before I got to that point.
Well, I'm just really glad that you decided to share all this with me. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you so very much for doing it.
Thank you so much. Thank you for
Oh,
letting me speak my truth.
my
Thank you.
pleasure.